Hello, everyone. Welcome to Learning from Loneliness. My name is Eri Kardos, and I'm so excited that you're all here with me today for this masterclass. We're going to dive right in, and feel free to ask any questions along the way. But first, we're going to get a little acquainted. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a relationship coach, speaker, and best-selling author of the book Relationship Agreements, and I have been doing this sort of work around love and relationships for about a decade now, and I freaking love it. And so I am just honored when I get to put together these opportunities to learn together. And I have to warn people that I'm a little bit weird. If you don't know me yet, I'm a little bit weird. So you'll see me doing things like this. It means like, yeah, I resonate with that, applaud, sparkle fingers. And I do swear sometimes. I'll try to keep that at a minimum. But just so you know, some things about me as we get started. I want to know more about who's here. So if you could take a moment, thanks, Manchu. I am weird. If you could take a minute, I'd love you to chat in the box. Ooh, chat in the box. Yeah, text in the box. Let me know, where are you calling in from right now? I know I've seen some faces in Germany and the East Coast of US, West Coast of the US. Who else is here tonight? Hawaii, Washington, Los Angeles, Australia, Vancouver, Bali. So good. Vancouver, New York. I like that y'all are supporting me in my weirdness. Thank you. And if you want to share, and feel free with anything I ask you today, you can share or not share. So I'm going to ask, if you want to share, what is your current relationship status? Whatever that may be, single, it's complicated, in a monogamous relationship, in a polyamorous relationship, whatever that may be, would love to hear, just because I focus on love and relationships and it helps me get a better pulse on who's with us today. Cool, we got lots of single folks in the house. Oh, I'm sending some love. I hear a relationship just ended after 4 years. That can be really challenging. And it can be really beautiful. Who knows? I try not to judge just by hearing that and something ended. I find that sometimes the ending can be really, really sweet and beautiful, and the transformation that needs to happen. So sending you love for whatever is happening in your relationship. Single and trying to figure it out. I hear you. And I'm married and trying to figure it out. And 3, what are you most curious about, or what brought you here? I'd love to know. I'd love to know. Why are you all here today? I'm going to talk for a minute while you answer that question. Maybe tap into like, why am I here right now? Why am I spending this time with this crazy woman? So again, my name is Eri Kardos. I'm a relationship coach, speaker, and best-selling author. I'm also a mom of 2 phenomenal kids and married to an incredible man named Jamin Patel. And I just have been honored to be doing this work for a long time. And our family currently resides in Bali, Indonesia. We were a full-time traveling family for a while. And then we ended up coming here, and it was supposed to be 3 weeks. And now it's going on, it's 3.5 years now. So really crazy. Thanks for everybody who's joining and sharing why they're here. Get back in touch with yourself and your needs, and stop compromising your desires. Here to just be curious and see what this is about. Morbid curiosity, lots of great reasons. Whatever your reason is, I really love the idea that you are exactly where you need to be. And so welcome. I'm excited to have you all here. So one of my favorite things to do as we get grounded is to do a 2-word check-in. And so what I want to do is I'm going to invite everybody to just close your eyes for a minute. Take a deep breath. And just tune in and see, what are 2 words that describe how you're feeling in this moment? And it doesn't have to be a feeling. It could be anything, like it could be a color. It could be a sensation. It could be feelings. So as I feel into myself, I am noticing. I'm noticing nervous excitement. That's my 2 words, nervous and excitement. So if you have your 2 words, please go ahead and put them in the text. Confused and anxious, confused and hopeless, grounded and heavy, bubbly, unknown. Dancy and orange, mild, malaise, curious and hopeful, spacey and confident. I love it. Thank you. One of the things I'm really passionate about in my work is integrating not just the head, but the head, the heart, the body, the soul, all of it. So you get to be a fully integrated person. And so much of the time in our society, we are not. We're really taught to be in our heads. And I find that our heads can be a lot of the problem or a lot of what blocks us from getting to our own truth and finding the answers and getting unstuck. And so today I know the theme is to be learning from loneliness, and loneliness can be such a huge, heavy topic for many of us, all of us. I'm gonna dare to be bold and say that all of us have felt loneliness, deep loneliness at some point in our lives. And many of us are there. Many people are there right now. And so I want to honor that wherever you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. And there are ways for you to get support. And I'm hoping that this call will be part of that. Thank you for being here. And I am going to be taking you on a bit of a journey. And I'm going to use some of my favorite tools today to bring you there. And we're going to be doing some reflection together. But a big shout out. I've had so many incredible teachers. I have been working constantly with a coach or therapist since the age of 16. So that's 21 years now where I've consistently been working with a different guide. And it has helped me grow so tremendously and lead me to be able to do the work that I do with such confidence, and also be able to bring what I find are some of the best things that are out there as resources to everybody I work with, including everyone here on this call. So today I have real special thanks to Martha Beck, Byron Katie, and this group called CORE. I'm going to be integrating a lot of what they teach into my own experiences and my own work today. So I just want to bring that up for everyone. So let's start with another question. What do you feel or experience when you feel lonely, when you're lonely? Now you really tune in, like, what is that experience like? What do you feel in your body? Do you notice some tension, maybe in your stomach? You can type this in the chat if you feel comfortable. But what is it that you feel? Maybe you feel sadness or anger or fear. But just noticing, like, what is it that you feel or experience when you are in this lonely state? Cold, despair, regret, anxious, misunderstood, separation, low energy, hollow, empty, lost, fear, tension in your chest, pain and constriction in the center of your chest. Yeah, really tuning in. Tired and avoidant. Yes, yes. Oh, I can relate with so many of these. A little bitterness. Sadness and unworthy. All right, I invite everyone to just take a deep breath into that space, just feeling it. Allow yourself to just feel the heaviness of the entire group space. And let it go. I'm going to be teaching a few things today. One is that I want to talk about pattern versus practice. At any point in time, we are living in pattern or we're living in practice. Most of our patterns were built very, very early in life, very early, usually like before the age of 7. And so we're constantly on repeat of the things that we learned back then. And now we've grown up. And yet, even though our bodies are bigger, we're oftentimes still functioning in this underdeveloped state of being. And we can choose to be continuously running the pattern, or we could choose to shift into practice. And practice takes being super intentional and learning ways of breaking out of the pattern. So I'm going to give you a tool or two today that will help you shift from the pattern and into the practice. And I'll go into that in just a little bit. Let's talk about the three selves first, though. Three selves is this idea that when we were born in our healthy self, in this state of being where everything, we just knew how to interact with the world. And there wasn't a lot of story or trauma or patterns in place. There was none. We just came in, we were innocently here. And then something happened, or many things happened, that caused a moment of trauma. And when I say trauma, I mean any moment when we experienced something big and didn't allow our bodies to process the sensation, like deeply process the sensation. Trauma is happening to everyone often. Some people have more deep trauma than others, deeper trauma than others, and everybody's trauma still hurts, and we all have these wounds. So at some point in time, we had trauma happen to us, usually before the age of 6 or 7. And it could have been something as simple as you were laying in your crib and you were crying and your mom started walking towards you to pick you up. And then the doorbell rang and she turned around to leave and go get the door first. And you just saw her walk away and you didn't understand what was going on. You didn't have the tools, and something in you in that moment split. And in that moment, you decided to become protective. So this never would happen to you again. The hurt, the pain, the sadness, the sorrow, you just can't get what's happening. And so in that moment we split into 3 different parts. We have our healthy self still, and then we have this wounded self. The wounded self is that moment of trauma. It's like, and that kind of get frozen. You've heard people refer to as your inner child. Your inner child kind of gets frozen in this place of ouch, somebody take care of me. And then you develop a survivor self or a survival self. And your survivor self is really here to try to protect you. And it has great intentions. And unfortunately, it's stuck back when the trauma originally happened. And so it develops all these stories about how to protect you. And the stories serve you as a child when you aren't very empowered. But as you get older, they don't serve you anymore. But we carry them with us. And that can really hold us back later in life. And so what I want to talk about is most of us are running our survival self like 90% of the day. 90%. It takes a lot of intention to come back into your healthy self, which you can totally do. But you have to exercise that muscle because we've all been running that old paradigm, that pattern of the survival self for decades. And so it takes a lot of effort to look at it courageously, examine it, and ask questions of, is this actually serving me? And if not, how do I let it go? So this is everything I'm covering today is like tip of the iceberg, and there's so much deeper we can go in all of these different concepts. But I want to introduce you to this. So this is the 3 selves. I want to talk today a lot about monsters, especially loneliness monsters. And so before becoming a love and relationships coach, I worked at Amazon.com doing leadership development for about 5 years. Loved it. And during my time there, I was on a team with this amazing man named Bob. And Bob was just like this bubbly, bright soul. I think he's the oldest employee that I know of that Amazon had hired. And he was just alive. And he would walk around with this little pin on his jacket, always. Whatever he was wearing, he had this pin on. And it was like a dragon monster. And one day, Bob and I were talking. I'm like, okay, so what's with the pin? He said, oh yeah, it's really important to me. That's my reminder. I'm like, what's it your reminder of? He said, well, I had cancer. And it was it didn't look good. And I went to the doctor, and I just remember feeling totally overwhelmed. And the doctor asked me, what is it like? And he said, I just see this giant monster. It's like 42 stories high. It's just this giant monster. And I just feel like I'm going to be crushed by it. And his doctor invited him. He said, what if we could take that 42-story high monster and make it into a bunch of little tiny 1-foot monsters that weren't so dangerous? They were more like yippy. And we could tackle them one at a time instead. And it really shifted his perspective. And he started looking at, how can I look at these monsters and break them into smaller, more manageable monsters and deal with them one at a time. And it was so beautiful and inspirational. And through that mindset shift, through that new approach of it's not as big as I thought it was, and I can really take this on. He was able to fully recover from cancer and had this amazing life with his wife and his coworkers, and he's great. We're still in touch, and I absolutely adore him. And his perspective and that pin he was wearing really shifted something in me and how I approach these big monsters in my own life. And so I'm going to be inviting you today to look at some of your monsters, especially around loneliness. So we're going to do another exercise. It's a little scan. And if you haven't done a scan with me before, that's cool. Welcome. What we're going to do is I'm going to invite you to get really comfortable and close your eyes. Take a few slow, deep breaths. We're just coming into your body and coming into this place, this present moment, and noticing. Let's just start by noticing our external world. So just taking some slow, deep breaths and noticing the smallest sound you can hear in the room. And then noticing how your clothing feels against your skin. Noticing any sounds you might hear in the environment or any smells you might smell. And then moving inward, turn your internal gaze on and looking at, where am I holding tension in my body? Where do I feel that knot in my stomach? Or maybe my throat feels constricted. Oh, maybe my heart feels really heavy. Just noticing. Trying to notice if there are any emotions attached to that. Not the story right now, but the emotion. So just noticing if, I'm noticing the tension in my stomach. Oh, I feel sad. Or mad, glad, fear, shame. Beautiful. Take another couple of breaths, noticing any other parts of your body that are calling for your attention. Maybe your neck and shoulders are tight. Beautiful. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes and come back into this space. Just holding on to that awareness of what you just discovered about yourself in the quiet. What I want to do is I want to invite you to find one of your monsters. Find your big monster. And today, since we're talking about loneliness, I invite you to really find your loneliness monster. You might have already found it when we just did that scan. It's there, it's present. We can feel it in ourselves and in the group collective. So as we find our monster, normally what happens is we have this feeling, this dreaded feeling that, or sometimes overwhelming feeling that here it is, loneliness. The loneliness monster is here. And most of us, when that happens, we have a trauma response to it. And we want to do the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. If you're not familiar with fawn, it's like the people pleasing. So usually when this gets initiated, when the monster pops up in our lives, we immediately will go to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And that's our coping strategy for handling this overwhelming sense of the monster is here. And what I'm going to invite you to explore is, what if we shifted our perception of what the monster is? And so what I want to do is invite you to welcome the monster instead. So we're going to close our eyes again and go back inside. And I know this could be hard. And if this isn't the right time for you to do it, you can come back whenever is the right time. Take care of yourself. But I invite you to just close your eyes. And when you feel the monster, you can feel the sensations of the loneliness, all of it's here. Instead, I would invite you to just welcome it. Just welcome it as if it was a friend. Welcome it. And we're going to start helping recognize how we can make such a big monster into smaller monsters. So just bringing it into the space, it's okay to be here. Now start listening for what is going on inside of you. What is this monster saying? Can you hear anything that it's saying? It's probably got many different messages. As you start to hear the messages, these are going to be different stories. I'm going to invite you to slowly open your eyes and write them down. You can share them in the chat or you can put them in your own paper. But what are these monsters saying? They might be saying things like, I'm not good enough. No one will ever love me. I'll never get back what I lost. It's too late. I'll always be alone. It's not safe to be me. Any of these stories. Each of these stories is one of your mini monsters. We're listening to the big monster that's showing up, and we're learning that each of these messages is really here for you to learn from, and each one is its own mini monster, and we can tackle each one individually so it doesn't feel so overwhelming. I'm hearing other mini monster stories of, I want you to be alone. You deserve to be alone. I'm too much. I'm emotionally high maintenance. I want you to be invisible. Just breathing into this. Take another minute or so. This is very courageous work. This is very courageous work that you're doing. Other stories, you're not traditionally attractive in their looks or personality. I don't know. These mini monsters can be so vicious, and yet they can hold keys for our own freedom in it. Okay. Now, I invite you to do something a little bit strange. I want you to stop and just look around. What is happening outside of you right now? What's going on? Do you hear any birds? How does your shirt feel against your skin? What is the smell in the room? Are you comfortable sitting the way you're sitting? Do you need to change positions? Just notice and observe what's happening around you. It's kind of a weird thing to do, to be like, but I was just with my mini monsters and they were super heavy. Yeah, but you've been with your mini monsters for a long time. You've been with the big monster and you've heard all the mini monsters yelping for a long, long time. And you've given them lots and lots of time and attention. Even if you've been running from them, they still spin. Sometimes I call them the hamsters from hell. I got that from my friend Reed, but they just kind of run in our brain. And going back to the idea of shifting from pattern to practice, this is it. This is the beginning of it. The things I'm going to talk about today may feel a little bit like, whoa, how do I even grasp all of this? But I just want to say, this is it. You're doing it. If you were just in your stories, and then you can stop and look around and be present in the current moment, the present moment, and really observe yourself here in the room you're sitting in, on a Zoom call, talking with Eri. Oh, drinking my cup of tea. Okay. This is breaking the pattern. And those who can develop, this is like one of the biggest first steps, those who can develop this ability to shift their awareness. This is the beginning of gaining your freedom back, of not being controlled by the monster. So next, we're going to get very, very curious. We're going to get curious and we're going to start looking for reasons why what you believe may not be accurate. And this can be tough. This can be really, really tough. Trust me. So you're going to let's choose one of your mini monsters. Just choose one. anyone that you want. Choose one and circle it. And we're going to start getting curious about that one. Just see if you can come up with 1 or 2 reasons, maybe more, about why that may not actually be accurate. You can ask, is it true? So you can just ask, is it true that this thing is it true that I'm too different? Is it true that I'm too different? Maybe your first answer is yes, I'm too different. Do I absolutely know it's true? Well, it's really hard to prove an absolute all the time. And too different for who? I'm a freaking weirdo and I still am different. Or no one would ever love me. Is it true? Well, it feels that way sometimes, but I absolutely know it's true. I've been loved before and I could be loved again. I deserve this pain. Is it true? Is it true? It might feel like yes initially, but do I absolutely know it's true? Is there anything that's showing me that I deserve this? And who is it? Who am I being compared against? So just starting to look for this. And if this is too difficult, if you're like, I've got nothing on this, this is where going to a friend or a family member who knows you well and asking them, can you give me some evidence? I'm looking to build a case that's different than the one I've been building for decades, or for however long you've been building this. Help me find some evidence of the opposite. You can ask yourself this question: how do I react when I believe this monster? When I believe that I deserve this, when I believe that I'm not good enough, when I believe that I'll never find love, how do I react? If I believe that, I can tell you personally, I shrink. I get super small. I shut down. I want to curl up on a couch and put on my sweatpants and just watch Netflix and eat dark chocolate all day. And that's simply from the belief that this monster is real. So then I ask myself, who would I be without this thought monster? Who would I be if I wasn't circling and spinning in my head all the time about this belief I hold? Who would I be if I let go of that and I started seeking evidence of the contrary? It's really hard for us to do that. As a culture, we are taught that we're not supposed to doubt. We're supposed to here it is. I'm obviously screwed up. I'm going to go find all the evidence of how I'm screwed up, instead of looking like maybe I'm just not. Maybe I am perfect the way I am. And I'm going to go seek evidence that supports that belief. So who would I be without this thought monster? How would I shift? Would I go out more often? Would I do things that I love more often? Would I feel more alive to meet others, or spend more time with people I really deeply care about, or foster new relationships? Or who knows? But who would you be without the thought monster? If that wasn't there, what would shift? I'm just asking yourself. Maybe you want to write a few ideas down. What would you do differently if you didn't feel so lost in this loneliness loop? Just notice. Just pause and notice in your body. What's happening? What's happening with this idea that if we can expose the truth of our inner monsters, it can give us more freedom and it can stop this loneliness loop. Notice if anything softens, even a little bit. This is hard stuff. And it may not be the exact right time for you to be in this deep end of the pool. And maybe it's exactly the right time. So just notice if there's just even a little bit of opening in that tightness that was around your throat, or a little bit of softening around your belly. And just ask yourself, are you ready to stop believing in monsters? When I first heard this question, I was pissed. I was so pissed. I'm like, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. Gosh darn it. If it was, I'd just stop a long time ago. And it is. I get how much we want to hold on. These monsters have been with us our entire lives. And it's like a child being afraid of the monsters under the bed. We were afraid until we weren't, until we let it go. And so we can use that same methodology now and looking at what are these stories we're holding on to so desperately that may not be serving us anymore. They're creating monsters that are really influencing our lives and not making them better. Maybe keeping us stuck in the loneliness loop over and over and over again because we don't know a way out. So I'm going to invite you to begin the shift from suffering to freedom. Yeah, it's simple. It's not easy. Buddha is said to have said, pain is inevitable and suffering is optional. And I do believe this. And I do believe that we are so in control of our own destiny and so in control if we can learn the magic of our emotions and how they're actually messengers here for us. How loneliness is not here to ruin your life. It's here to teach you things and give you freedom. And it's just with any big emotion, but loneliness is such a powerful one, especially right now. And it doesn't have to leave you sleeping on the couch or not sleeping with insomnia on the couch late at night, feeling so lost in these monster thoughts. We can learn from them and move forward. And so I invite you to consider, what would I be like if I could let go of these monsters? All right, everybody take a deep breath. One more for good measure. And I'm going to invite you to return back to the chat when you're ready. What's present for you? Give me 2 words. 2 words of what's coming up for you, how you might feel. Notice if there's anything that's shifted in your body just by hearing this. It may be giving you some new life. It may be confusing. It may be agitating. It may be freeing, that you know that this is yours. This can be yours. Hopeful, letting go, some sadness to connect to the loneliness, acknowledgement, remembering who I am and coming back to self. Beautiful. I have goosebumps. Thank you all so much for sharing. You are on the right path. I have this vision. I have this vision for the world where people are living their deepest, juiciest, most passionate, fulfilling, and turned on lives. And all by elevating their relationship with themselves and with others. And it starts here. It starts with self. So I'm inviting all of you today to continue to invest in yourself and really be with yourself. All of these emotions are valid. They're here, they're valid. You are valid. You're on the right path. And I really, I'm just cheering you on. I would like to, this is a lot for some, and I want to pause here. I do want to do some Q&A, but I'm actually going to save it for the end. I want to share something with you because I'm doing something new, and it'll just take a couple minutes, and we'll move to Q&A. So I'm doing something brand new. For those of you who already know me, I've been a relationship coach primarily for people who are in relationships already for almost a decade now, and I've absolutely loved it. And I've been getting questions for a long time about, do I ever support people who are single? And I was like, no, I don't do that. And then I started working with a lot of individuals just privately, and for things that would start off as like career or just like life journey. And eventually it would come back to, how do I prepare for love of myself, love in the bigger world? And I realized that I was using so many of the same tools that I was with my couples or my people in relationship. I would take them on individual journeys about who they are and healing the emotional wounding, healing the trauma, looking at how we can develop our mastery for our emotions and learning what's there and what they're trying to tell us, and tuning into our bodies in a kind of weird but not so weird way, so that people could really feel whole again. So I decided I would create a program for everyone. This one specifically for people who are single, and I'm still working with people in relationship private coaching. So Ready for Love, and I'd love to just tell you about it pretty quickly. This is what's going to be happening. We're going to do some breaking out of patterning like we did today, recognizing and breaking out unhealthy patterns to create healthier and more enriching ways of relating. I'm going to help you know yourself, like really know yourself, go deep inside and feel confident who you are, what you want to attract, who you want to attract, and help you get what you want, knowing how to make requests, how to nurture yourself and relationships, taking back control, be empowered to take more control, and have the ability to finally have the relationships you desire. And most importantly, I want you to feel safe being authentically you all the time. And that may sound crazy. But it is possible. It is completely possible to feel safe and to cultivate your own safety and to have the tools to show up when the relationship time is right. If and when the relationship time is right, to have the tools to really show up and not lose yourself in old patterns again, or not lose yourself to unhealthy relationships, or not lose yourself in the monsters trying to prevent you from being in a relationship. So here's what we're going to be doing. If you are ready to shift things and have new change in your life. This is going to be a 7-week program. We're launching at the end of this month, which I'm super stoked about. And it's going to be 90-minute group sessions for 7 weeks. So once a week. There'll be guides every week for how to take yourself on a self date. I love dates. I love designing dates. I've literally designed hundreds of dates for hundreds of people around the world on different continents, different cultures. It doesn't matter if you are a single parent and super crazy at home and busy, or you're super busy and swamped with work. You can still do self dates that are meaningful without having to spend a whole day out or have to fly to Paris or something for the date. And you'll also be a part of our private Facebook community, so you can ask questions. And one of the things I really love about the community is that you'll get to hear each other's stories and support one another. And I'll talk about that in just a moment, but it really helps normalize your experience. When you get to hear other people who are going through similar challenges and be like, oh yeah, I totally get that, right? And what do you do about this? And what about, and you get to support each other. So it's really awesome. You'll also get access to weekly videos and tools that I've designed for you and my resources library. I love resources. I love them. Like I said, I've been a personal development junkie for 21 years plus now. And so I've got some crazy, amazing resources that I will tell you the best of best. And I am excited for you on that. It's about 3 hours of time commitment every week, the 90-minute call once. And then usually I invite people into some sort of personal practice daily. It's about 5 to 10 minutes of your time every day so that you can really start getting it in your body of how to shift out of this. So if this sounds interesting to you, normally it is $3,500 USD. But I really, 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 truly am feeling called to make sure that this is accessible to people and that money isn't the reason why you're not joining. So as a thanks to everybody for being on this call today and learning with me, I want to invite you all into this program for $19.97. If it's a one-time payment, it's $19.97. And if you need to do 2 payments, that's okay. And it's a very, very small price difference for you can do 2 payments of $1,050. So this is what's going on. I'm super excited. I officially announced this group program, I think about a week ago, and we already have 4 people signed up. And I'm keeping it limited to 12 people. So that means there's only 8 sessions remaining, 8 spots remaining for this group program. Again, we kick off at the end of the month. Ellie, if you could drop the sign up links in the chat, that would be wonderful. For anybody who feels, thank you. For anybody who feels called and you're like, wow, this is awesome. And if my way of teaching is connecting with you, I know you have tons of choices. There's lots of coaches and therapists and guides out there. And I really just invite you to tune in to, if you're feeling called, if the way I speak, the way I do things resonates with you, to trust that instinct. And if there's something that's moving today and you're like, wow, this is what I'm supposed to work on, then I invite you to sign up. You can just directly sign up right here with this app, this link. And if you still have more questions, feel free to ping me and we can schedule a time to chat about it and where you're at and make sure this is a really, really good fit for you. But if you already want to claim your spot, since there's only 8 remaining, go for it. I'm really excited. I'm really excited, you guys. So are you ready for love? If you are, then please come and join us. Yeah, I'm just stoked. So thanks for listening to all that. I want to do Q&A about anything that came up today for you in the masterclass, any questions you have for the group program. And I also just want to recognize that we've got about 10 minutes left-ish. And so for anybody who wants to connect and can't stay the whole time for the Q&A, then here's my contact information. And I'm just really, really, really excited that you all joined me today. Thank you so much. Let's take a deep breath together. One more. Beautiful. Thank you all so much for coming. And I'd love to open it up. If we don't have time to get to all of the questions, you can just put them right in the chat. I'll also unmute folks, but if you want to just put your questions directly in the chat, that way, if we don't get to them all today, then I can also do a live in the group and finish answering them at a later date. Okay. All right. So if you have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away. Your voice will be recorded, but your face will not on the recording. If someone is already working with you individually, how would this program align or fit in? I have several people in this call who already work with me, which is fun. And I'm really excited for that. And so depending on the individual, I am inviting several of my current clients to come join the program. What I find is different is that you're going to have the group container. So oftentimes with my private coaching clients, we're moving more in the like, what is alive for you today? And like, it's not as like, okay, week 1, we're doing this, week 2, we're doing this, right? So it's very driven and it's very organized and structured. And usually I'm a bit less structured and I go with where we're being led in our discussion today. So this can be very structured. Plus you have group support, which is amazing, especially if you are single and wanting to connect more deeply with people who are like-minded. This is the space for that. And I do offer for those who are signing up for the group program and they want to do private coaching, there's also the option to add group coaching or private coaching on at a discounted rate. So it can work really well for getting the one-on-one love and attention and also getting the group experience. I hope that answered your question. Any other questions about either the group program or the monsters, the loneliness loop? Feel free to unmute yourself. Mic up.
Hey, Eri. How are you, honey?
Hi.
Thank you so much for today. That was awesome. So I've got a question about your really beautiful story about that gentleman wearing the monster tag. I really like that idea of like constantly reminding yourself, like, you know, something to keep telling yourself, okay, this is my monster, like, because it's so easy to forget throughout the day, right? Like you said, we spent 90% of the time just in that loop and in that pattern. So I was wondering if you could recommend some ways that are helpful for recognizing that when we're not, when we're aware of how stuck we are in these quite a lot of the time and how blind we can be to them. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Beautiful question. So first step is just having awareness. And we did a lot of that today. So congratulations on already doing a lot of that work. And what I find works the best is finding something that really connects with you. So for Bob, it was connecting with this giant dragon monster. And that was his reminder and making sure like he created a ritual. What I find is rituals are really, really powerful in our human existence for creating change, for shifting things, for making something really sacred. And we do it all the time because we're in our practice or in our patterns all the time. we don't give much thought to that. So what is it that would be really helpful for you? And for him, it was the ritual of putting the pin on every morning and making sure that he was touching it or looking at it. And it helped remind him, especially when he would start to let his mind and body wander down that monster loop, to like, hey, it's not that big. It doesn't have to be that big. I'm in control of this. I'm going to come back. So it's like the reframing, the bringing back. So I'd say for anybody out there, what is a ritual you can create for you that will help you really stay grounded in what it feels like to be present with yourself, and remembering that this is just the monster in your head, and we can keep coming back. So that could be something you physically wear. It could be, I work with all right. So another thing that you may or may not know about me is I've taught all sorts of fascinating intimacy topics, including kink and BDSM. And one of the things that I do with people is I help them train themselves, train their brains around pleasure, around sensation, whatever it might be. And one of the things that I do is I work with people around maybe finding a certain smell that might be a reminder of a certain sensation. So for example, if you are loving the sensation of having nails against your skin, it could be your own nails, any nails, but maybe like you love the sensation. So then you would do it to yourself at the same time that you might have some lavender oil or any other smell that you like. And you're going to just start waving the lavender oil under your nose the same time as you're doing the skin scratching. So soon your brain starts connecting the idea of, when I smell lavender, I feel this beautiful sensation that I love, this juicy sensation. And it gets to the point where if you've done it enough, we're very trainable creatures. You look at Pavlovian experiments and whatnot, and you can come back to this idea of like, oh, I'm very trainable. What happens if when I experience the sensation I have, that I really desire, I can train myself to be in that moment with a smell. I love smells, so that's a big deal for me. It could also be something visual. It could be a feeling of like, a certain like bracelet that you put on, or whatever feels good for you, or ring you slip on when you're experiencing that sensation. Anything that grounds you, anchors you to that moment. So if you notice, it's really easy for us to get lost in the monster loop. We feel lonely. We start creating all these stories. Then there's like a million rabbit holes, and we can choose to go down like 8 of them, and they just make us feel worse. And we get more and more. We just pull back from life, and we go back into that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. What happens if you consciously choose to bring yourself into the present moment, and you're having an experience, maybe you're creating an experience that you enjoy? It doesn't have to be like, oh my God, this is the best thing in the world, but that you enjoy. Where are those moments in life? Maybe you're sitting on a park bench and you're just really noticing how much you love breathing the fresh air and watching the birds eat the breadcrumbs at your feet. And that's repeatable. And maybe that's when you have this lavender oil and it reminds you of this presence. You're like, oh, I'm here. This is really beautiful. And I do that every couple of days or every day for a little while. It takes about a week or so. And then your brain starts making that connection more often. And you can take that with you. And so one of my clients is a very successful lawyer. And before she goes into any of her cases, if there's anything where she knows she's going to be thrown off balance, she's trained herself. She's trained herself with her favorite perfume, and she only saves it for those occasions, for the grounding, the recentering. She's going into this, she's going to stay really present instead of letting her mini monsters of, I'm not good enough, I'm going to fuck this up, get away from her. She has this to ground and step in. Hopefully that was helpful.
Super helpful. Thank you so much, honey.
Yeah. What is a good short way to banish the monsters when you're in the moment? Yeah. Banishing monsters takes time and practice. And in the moment, just doing that thing that we did where I said, okay, where are the monsters? What are they saying? And then as soon as you had it, we broke out and you looked around and you said, what is happening around me? Are there birds in the sky? What does this chair feel like underneath my bum? How does this clothing feel on my skin? Am I hungry? Right? It's like when you look around, this is one of the biggest first steps to breaking out of the pattern. You're shifting your awareness from just the internal spiral into expanding your awareness to like, there's more going on. There's more than just this story. So I wish there were some quick fix of like, all right, all you have to do is become aware of your signs and then the monsters go away. However, I can say that with time and practice and support, you can learn how to recognize the monsters and pull away from being with them, not give them so much time and attention, and really start to learn, like when you're with them, you really be with them and you listen to that message and go through the process we just went through of questioning them, getting really curious about them and looking for like, are these really true? And is this how I want to show up? When you go through this process, and I'll put the replay back up, you can go through as many times as you want with any monsters that are coming up emotionally in your life. Then we can look at this and say, okay, this is how we're going to shift. This is how we're going to banish the monsters. And with time and practice, it can absolutely happen. And the time it takes will go down dramatically. It'll go down from like, I'm really trying my darndest to get rid of this monster, and it's really effing hard, to it'll be, you won't even know it until it happens. And you'll realize the monster comes up and you're like, nope, not going to even give that any of my energy. My favorite go-to for in the moment shifting is gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for shifting many things in life. And it's been very well researched. And I think Brene Brown talks about it a lot. Gay Hendricks talks about it a lot. Like, some of my favorite authors and speakers talk about the power of gratitude a lot. And if you can notice when you're starting to rabbit hole, like in my showers in the morning, I noticed that like I start thinking about the day and I start like worrying about what might happen. And I just made a decision that my showers are only for gratitude, no matter what. No matter what. That's just, I drew a line in the sand. Showers are gratitude. So when I get in the shower, I now, since I've done this long enough, even though my body and brain may still want just a little bit to go down, like worry, stress, plan, logistics, instead, I've trained myself to know like gratitude, and that gratitude grounds me every single time. And it's really hard to let your monsters be so big when your heart is so full. And you're like, it could be the smallest things. I'm grateful for this hot water right now. I'm grateful for the fact that I am breathing this air right now, and I'm here. Whatever it may be, there's still so much to be grateful for. And whenever you can come back to that, it really helps push the monsters away and help them get smaller. All right. I think we are right at time, and I want everybody's time. But I do see there are more questions. So what I'm going to do is, if you have more questions, put them in the chat right now. And thank you everybody who joined. I really, really, really appreciate it. If you have more questions, dump them in the chat. I will follow up in the Facebook group with answering some of these. And if there's more, go for it. I have a monthly Q&A every month, and I'll make sure that I get to these then for sure. And I'm just sending you a lot of love. Again, if you are wanting to join the group, there's 8 slots remaining. Ellie, if you want to put them back in, that'd be great. Thank you everybody for joining us. And I hope this was helpful. Feel free to send me any thoughts, comments, feedback. Mwah! Love you.